Okay, it's all yours, Pedro.
Okay. Well, welcome everybody. We just I want to acknowledge that we're starting late for this call. We're recording it right now. Thank you all for being on the call. Dave, Pam, Monica, Tom, Desiree, and Tim who are on the call. So let's say this is our Training Thursday call for level
Right.
ones. And thank you all for being here. Thank you for working it out. Thank you for taking the quick survey and finding a time and date that works for you. And just thank you for being here. So Tim, let's see. All right, so who would like to generate the bold statement of who we are?
Dave, would you like to do that?
Yay, Dave.
No, I don't have that handy.
Okay.
But I can.
You want to take a shot at it?
No,
Okay.
I'm not. Yeah, but hold on. I can get that real quick right now.
Awesome.
Yeah, let me do that.
Master provider.
There you go.
Yeah, it's something like provider, whatever is needed, integrity, that kind of thing.
No, that's just who you're being. You'll get to that.
All right. All right, here we go. Bold statement of who we are. We, the course supervisors, are given by a possibility bigger than ourselves, holding as sacred the integrity of the clearing in which transformation occurs, causing the fulfillment of our brand, master providers of whatever is needed.
Great.
Yeah.
There you go. All right, so Dave, you want to take that on and start being able to actually generate that as who you are so that it's just naturally you can create it. That's
Okay.
one of our competencies for you to work on.
Got it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Dave, I have a request. Can you generate it again slowly so we can all get present to your words, including yourself?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Bold statement of who we are. We, the course supervisors, are given by a possibility bigger than ourselves, holding as sacred the integrity of the clearing in which transformation occurs, causing the fulfillment of our brand, master providers of whatever is needed.
Great.
Booyah.
Great. Dave, what are you present to right now?
The responsibility of what that is.
Mm. And so when you say responsibility, is that like burden?
No.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's like it's responsibility, taking that on to be that person.
Got it.
In which, transformation happens.
Yeah, like causing it, being someone who's out to cause that.
Yes.
Yeah. Great.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Dave, for doing that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay. All right. So, Tim, if I'm not mistaken, what we're going to generate as a conversation for this call
Mhm.
is the big moment of the Landmark Forum, which is the conversation about empty and meaningless. Was there anything covered on the last call? Is anything around empty and meaningless that you recall, Tim?
Oh yeah, that's right. You weren't here last time. Yeah, we did. We did quite a bit of work on empty and meaningless. What we didn't do was the conversation that occurs in the Landmark Forum before empty and meaningless. So on the break right before that session 3 on day 3, is they go on a break looking at all the moments in their life when they were not running rackets or strong suits. or sorry, winning formula is the new wording, winning formula, or running rackets. So in those moments where you were being present out here and just being, not machinery. Of course, they don't have the conversation about machinery yet, but just not being your rackets and winning formulas. So then they come back from the break, and the conversation then is having people really look and start sharing about. So when are some of those moments? So we want to actually look for ourselves and see what are some of the moments that you've had where you say, no, I was not running rackets and I was not my winning formulas. I was really being. So that's
Yep.
the beginning conversation today.
Okay. Okay. All right. So let's say, if, being in the Landmark Forum, you have participants coming back from the break, and they were invited to look, where or what moment in their lives they've experienced a moment of not running rackets or not being their winning formulas. And people come back from the break, the session begins, and so the question is put out there, it's created, generated, and then people start looking and sharing. So in a moment, we're gonna look at some of those moments, and we'll get all to share about that, and what does it look like for us. And, part of this exercise, or part of this, working up to the distinction of empty and meaningless is actually, like, in reality, looking, what does it really look like for us, like, as human beings? And then when people share and people say, what amount of time they were in that moment where that happened, where they experienced just nothing but just being, it's such, we do in the forum, we do an exercise to calculate how much of that time is actually the time that you spent your whole life in those moments. So, so people, when people are asked, people share from all kinds of things, and we could just, we can generate this conversation as if we're being in the forum right now, and, generate for ourselves what are those moments for us. So, if I look myself in one of those moments, I would say, there's been moments in my life, for example, when my daughter was born, there was, like, my wife was sitting in the waiting room. She was sitting in the waiting room, but she was sitting in the delivery room. And, the little tiny little head starts coming out, and, she completely comes out. She's taken to the back, to be washed and cleaned and all those beautiful things. And then there was just this moment for me where I experienced that there was just nothing, like really nothing more than, just being with a newborn human being. And there was just nothing going through my head. I wasn't thinking about anything. And I was just being in that moment. It was just being. And then a concern kicked in. Is she going to be okay? Is she going to cry? Is she not going to cry? Is she doing okay? She looks purple. Now she looks green. Now she looks, all those stuff, right? So boom, right in that moment, it was interrupted for me. And, I don't really, like, honestly, I don't really recall having too many of those moments in my life. Maybe one here, one there, but it's just, like, I'm really present to, when I really look at this, I'm really present to that there are very little moments in my life where I've been just being, just being, where, with no trying to crawl out and survive, or, going in my head about, is this good? Is this bad? Is this right, wrong, and boom. And that's all there again, So it's like being, like experiencing a moment where I'm being, and then all of a sudden, just life kicks in. Okay. So that's what I that's what I can see for myself in that conversation. So anybody want to share one of their moments?
Sure, I will. Go ahead, Des, but you're on mute.
Unmute. Okay. There's like seconds when I'm dancing, and not all the time when I'm dancing. Very few times when I'm dancing, where I just don't know nothing. There's nothing there, and then I come back into my body, and it was like sublime, and I forget where I am, and you know, there's nothing but the joy of that, and I'm not even having an experience of the thought of the joy of that. It's just me connecting somewhere. So, and a lot of dancers have that experience, and a lot of religions that use dance and music and drums, you know, call it something else. But yeah, that's moments that I've been, for me. Haven't had one of those in a long time.
Peak moments, some people call them. Blissful peak.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, who else?
I want to say something about what Des said. You know that it's one of these moments when you can look and you see that you weren't even thinking about the moment until later. But in that moment, there's just you're not an observer of the moment. You are so in the moment. There is no thinking at all about it, and you have no idea who's running. There's nobody running any show, right?
And then somebody would ask me, like, you know, how did you do that? And I'm like, I don't, no clue. Just can't. Yep. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great. Okay.
So
Tom.
I was in Costa Rica, and I was standing at the end of this kind of plank on a bridge that was 325 feet up. I was hooked to a bungee harness, and my friend who was running the bungee said, okay, I want you to pick a spot across the way and concentrate on it. And I'm going to count down from 5 to 1. And when I get to 1, you're going to jump. And I did. And there was like nothing. I was just falling. And I went, I don't know how long it took to fall. So with the bridge, you go out, you come back, you go all the way down, and then you come out about 3/4 of the way up the other side of the bridge. And then you have a really steep fall. The other one's kind of like an arc. And I don't know exactly what moment it was, but it was some point after going back and forth a couple of times that I was just like, fuck, like I just did that. Like, but in the moment before that, however long it took, there was just nothing. It was just like, it was pretty, and it was just, I don't even know how to describe it. It was just nothing. And, you know, and then afterwards, as I'm hanging upside down, waiting to get pulled up, I'm getting like adrenaline rushes and start shaking. And I'm thinking, I can't believe I just did that. And I started reliving like how it went until I got up. And, but there was, I really don't know how long it was that I was in that moment. And I've had, I think when my 3 kids were born, but especially my first one was born. And also I've had some spiritual ones too. So I've had a lot, but I would doubt it would be even close to 5 minutes.
Total.
And 54 years of living.
Okay, good. So Pedro, why don't we do the calculation with what he just shared? Let's just say 5 minutes, 54 years. I'm going to share a document that oftentimes leaders will have you use. And it's a chart that shows the number of the number of minutes in a person's life. So Tom's 54, So the number of minutes Tom's been alive is 28,382,400 minutes in his life.
Mm-hmm.
So then if you say, okay, Tom, let's just give Tom that he's for 5 minutes of that amount of time, he's not been his rackets or strong suits. Now, sometimes the forum leaders will say, okay, well, we'll just say 10. In this scenario, they said 120 minutes. So if we take, let's just say 120 divided by Tom's number minutes alive, 28,382 million. I said it wrong again. Can you guys see it? 28,382,400.
400.
Right. You take that and then you multiply it times 100. What do you get?
It is, hold on. Let me look at my calculator sideways. And this is good practice when you do this on a course. You want to get a calculator that has that you're able to see all the numbers without the decimal. So can you lower the page a little bit, Tim?
Lower it. Yeah.
Yeah. A little more. Okay, so for Tom, it's 0.0004279%.
So in the forum, when you're the course supervisor in the back of the room, the leader may have 2 people up. They may have done this a couple of times with someone. You want to be ready from the get-go after that break, because this conversation is going to happen. And sometimes the leader will bring someone up to the microphone, and it's not someone who really had a peak moment. So then they go sit down. But once you know who's up there, you get your class list and you look at their name and you find out if there's an age in Lisa. So then you already know, okay, if the leader goes with this person, I've got their age and now I know how many minutes. You can get yourself ready for how many minutes this person says they've had a peak moment. So you get yourself prepared. And then it may not be that person. And then they'll bring somebody else up. So you hope that Lisa has the age of the person, so you're ready for it. Some of the times the leader will write up on the board how many minutes. And then they'll go, okay, and this is how many minutes peak. And like they'll put it on the board so that people see how they're calculating it. But you need to be ready to give that answer as soon as possible.
So mine's actually less though, because it wasn't 120 minutes. It was
right. Right.
But in that case, that's 4 1,000ths of a percent.
Yes, of your life.
Yeah.
So this brings people to really get that their entire life, pretty much most of their life, our life, is run by brackets and winning formulas. Then they go into the conversation about empty and meaningless.
Mm-hmm.
So that conversation we had a lot of that distinction we had last week. Everybody was on that call, yes? That's here now?
Yes.
Yeah. Desiree was here, yeah.
Not everybody. Noah, Joshua.
Right, but who's here now was here last week. Pam, were you here with us last week?
I wasn't here last
Oh,
week.
you weren't. Okay.
You weren't? Oh, was it 2 weeks ago?
No, last week.
Last week.
No, Desiree, was that 2 weeks ago you were on?
No, I haven't done because I couldn't do Tuesdays.
Tuesdays. This is our first training one.
Oh,
I did it
I'm
when it
thinking-
first started.
got it. I'm thinking of a different
Yeah,
call. Isn't that
something
funny?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I noticed somebody has some background noise. I'm not sure
Yeah.
who that might be. Oh, it's our fearless leader.
Could have been me because my office door was open and the blender in the other room and a conversation and like that.
Yes.
Better?
Thank you.
So we did have that conversation, Tim, and most of us were there or here in that conversation. I mean, the thing I wanted to, I want to share this, Tim, is I remember as a participant when I did the forum, you know, I'm just thinking back at it, and for me, it was like in the beginning of that conversation, it was like, you know, this, as soon as the words hit you, you know, like life is empty and meaningless. As soon as those words hit me, what I was thinking of was anything that was confronting for me at that moment, any kind of listening that I've had in my life, you know, like everything came up in that moment, like religion, like, you know, what is the meaning of life, or what are you talking about? And what I really get, like now that I see it, and having been in this conversation several times, is that everything and anything that were my beliefs, my superstition, like the whole forum came for me all together, all distinguished, all the distinctions came together in that moment, and they all just collapsed with each other. And that's a superstition, right? I'm just figuratively speaking, but everything came up for me in that moment. And then there was a moment where, you know, I was able to be with the conversation and like listen for the first time what was being said. And then that's the moment where I got it. And I remember the forum leader at that, my forum leader was actually Gary Bishop. And he asked around, like, what are you present to? And my answer was like, wow. I mean, it was just like, wow. You know, I was just like in awe of the whole thing. It's like, I can't believe that I've been living my life with so many thoughts and beliefs and all that, and has nothing to do with that. It really is empty and meaningless. So that was a, you know, like an eye-opening for me, truly. And I really got present to that everything that I believe came up for me in that moment.
Great, Pedro. How about you guys sharing, like even right now, what comes up for you that life is empty and meaningless, and it's empty and meaningless that it's empty and meaningless. We want to also make sure that, hey, there's Dave. We also want to make sure that you get the entire distinction, because it's not just life is empty and meaningless. You really have to have the entire distinction. Life is empty and meaningless, and it's empty and meaningless that it's empty and meaningless for you to really get it. So is there anyone who's unclear about that, doesn't get the difference? Because this is the critical piece that gets people hung up in the conversation. What do you mean life is empty? My life is not empty. It's not meaningless. I have purpose. God put me here for a reason. Who has something?
Yeah. Hi. I remember the moment that the leader, Barry Terry, said that to our course. And I was mad the entire weekend, but I was like so mad. I was like, why am I working so hard? Like, what's the freaking point? Like I'm in the world of trying to make it. And I was kind of frozen in my chair, right? Like glued to my chair, like listen. And I had the same phenomenon happen to me as Pedro when I could hear probably for the first time what the forum leader was saying. So I was riveted. That's the word. I was riveted. And then as the conversation progressed and I was starting to understand that life outside of my brain, like all that stuff going on, that there's no inherent meaning, was like a huge relief.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like really present to the relief I had, you know, like I'd been living inside of like all these people hating me, just not getting along with people, like crushed, being a terrible mom, being told I should never have been a mom by my parents, like so many messages, right? And to know that that was like not it, like the thing I'd been hanging on to, like trying to fix, that wasn't it. I think I probably started breathing regularly for the first time in my life. Like I felt my beingness, like my physical beingness. Like I could feel my fingers and my hands, my feet at the same time. I had been grappling with really bad, oddly enough, back pain. And I could actually sit in the chair at that point of the course. Like I had been sitting on the floor the entire time. And they were very generous and let me do that. And I was able to sit in the chair for like the first time. That's how much, like how rigid I had become in life. So I guess it was like a melting, like it just, stuff just fell away. And every time I get present to that, it like erases things. Like it just erases nonsense from my life.
Yeah, that's the power of bringing distinction to your life.
Yeah.
You can actually get what's so.
Yeah. It's really awesome. Thank you.
Okay, who else? Who has something I want to share about the experience, or even right now what you're dealing with around your own life that may or may not appear to be empty and meaningless right now?
I had when I did the forum, like I got empty and meaningless, during the forum, and I got it how like what I do, or things that have happened to me don't have a meaning. Like, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
punished for bad things by God or rewarded for good things, or there's not a purpose that I have that I get to create that. But what it took me a long time to get, probably like 4 years, and I didn't get it until after I reviewed the forum, did the advanced course, and then did the SELP, was that I was still making anything that anybody did or said mean something.
Yeah.
And getting and having upset about that. And it really took, through the self-expression leadership program, to like get that, just because somebody says something to me, it doesn't mean anything. And there was a lot of power in being able to let that go.
Mm-hmm.
Because I wasn't held captive to what people did or said or didn't do or didn't say. That was really freeing. And sometimes people do things because they do things, and it has nothing to do with me. Actually, I think all the time now. But
Yeah. People do life. Life shows up, and what they're doing doesn't mean anything. What you give meaning to is what has us trapped.
and I forget that.
Mm-hmm.
But when there's a breakdown or an upset, now I have this distinction.
Right.
So I could be like triggered or activated or whatever, and then I can realize, oh, wait a minute. Life is empty and meaningless, and it's meaningless that it's empty and meaningless.
Empty
And
and meaningless, that it's empty and meaningless.
yeah, empty.
Yep.
And I don't have to, like, they said what they said,
Yep.
and that doesn't mean anything unless I make it mean something.
That's right, until you make it mean something. And then it doesn't mean that either.
Right. And it's really, one area in my life that distinction has made a huge difference is with my ex-wife. And, when we got divorced, like, well, before and during and after, I just couldn't communicate with her. And, you know, I really wanted us to be friends and we weren't. And of course it was all her fault. I didn't have anything to do with that. And, you know, when I got that, you know, what people say or do don't have meaning, I was really freed from a lot of things that she said to me. And so when I was in the space of nothing in regards to her,
Mm-hmm.
you know, she showed up differently too. And now over the last few years, you know, we're able to do things as a family. You know, we've done things just me and her and my boys. We've done things with her parents and her boyfriend and my boys. And so it's really out of that distinction that even though we're divorced, we're still a family.
Yeah.
So it's made a huge difference in my life, in my kids' life, in my ex-wife's life. My kids have done the forum, my ex-wife has not. So they get that. They get that. And we've talked about it.
Yeah, not everyone in your life for you to be and act and relate to transformed has to do the forum. Like you said,
Right.
she
But
showed up differently.
She did because of the way I showed up.
Well, it's really the meaning you gave her way of being shifted. She's still herself doing herself.
To a certain extent, yes. But when I show up in a space of nothingness,
Yep.
not attacking or
Yep.
defensive. So it's both of us, really.
It allows her to then be in a different clearing for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you got to look. Then we give that meaning. I mean, this right now we're giving meaning to it. Like it means that she was that way because.
Right.
Because like what you said earlier, you can create anything you want. You know now that you can create something else, some other meaning that actually supports you or serves you or causes something and contributes to other people.
Yeah, and I created that we can have a relationship and be friends and be parents and still be a family, even though we're
Yep.
not married.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I chose to create that, and that's a powerful thing in my life.
This is perfect because this is then after the conversation about that life is empty and meaningless and it's empty and meaningless, that it's empty and meaningless. The conversation is, well, then what? What are you going to create? How are you going to create? What meaning are you going to create? What's going to be your stand for your life? So then the next conversation is really around creating. So Pedro, I don't know if you want to share anything about that conversation, because we got 20 minutes left to go into the declaring action results, future, present, past. And
No, you go ahead, Tim.
Okay, got it. All right.
You have it clear in front of you.
I have it in front of me, and I also have the conversation from the slides.
Yes.
From the board work. So I'm going to share those. And Desiree, you'll recognize this, I think. So, all right, can you see a big blank screen?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good. So if life is empty and meaningless, is empty and meaningless, that it's empty and meaningless, you really get that outside of your machinery, you have the ability and language to actually create something. And the first rule of creating anything and have your creation make a difference, what do you think has to be there? in the background for the context of your speaking?
Nothing.
Well, you gotta, for it to be powerful, it's coming from nothing, but what is the foundation?
Integrity.
There you go. So before you can declare anything that's actually going to make a difference out there and show up, you have to declare a possibility of being with a foundation of integrity. So all of our work is around inventing possibility, right? So in your speaking, you declare something as possible, the possibility of being. And where does that show up? Where are you speaking that possibility? Into what? When you say I'm creating or inventing the possibility of being powerful.
You're speaking into a future.
Exactly. You're speaking that possibility into the future. Now, the only way that this is ever gonna create integrity from nothing and declare something, it has to have integrity. So when we work with integrity within our program and we see that something went out, we gave our word to do something, some agreement, and it doesn't happen, it's because there was no foundation of integrity. So many times you'll say, oh yeah, I can do that by so-and-so date. Like you declare the possibility of having X done by a certain time, but you never look to see if you could even do that. You didn't look at your calendar. You didn't even really know what you were saying you would do. So there's no foundation of integrity. So once you have created something out there in the future as a possibility, a way of being, what then has to take place for it actually to show up?
You have to make a plan.
Okay. And you make a plan, then what?
You enroll
You have to
others
take-
that haven't gotten
You have to take action.
When?
in the present.
Exactly. So you can say everything you want to say, but without integrity, nothing is ever going to get done. There's not going to be the appropriate action to actually have power, and that what you said actually comes forth and shows up. So after taking appropriate action, what then shows up? What's next?
Results.
Yeah, results. And then, sorry, where are those results then when results show up?
Well, then they're in the past.
Exactly. Most of us, so this is, if we look at this model, this is the be, do, have model. Most human beings are do, have, be. If I do the, I'm sorry, do, be, have. I said it wrong. Do, be, have. If I do this, then I can be this, and then I'll have this. But that's actually not how life works. That's actually not how creating in language actually works. So this is the conversation that happens after people get that they're machines. And for any real power in life, to have a transformed life, to actually create the life you want, the be, do, have model of life works. So if you look into your own life right now and can see breakdowns around areas of your life that are not working, you really want to get yourself present to what is your foundation of integrity that you have about what you say about your life. So like Pam, this is so perfect because you just caused a monumental shift in who you're going to be in the world. And you really got present to your lack of integrity around who you said you would be for yourself and your well-being. And until you actually got present to the impact and the cost of it, you were really in the do, be, have model.
Yeah, a lot of it I can see, like, it's so like palatable, right? So for me, alive, I wouldn't talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I found myself sharing with non-graduates, probably because I thought I could get away with it.
Mm.
And I was incorrect. Right?
Yeah.
So that, as much as I resisted acknowledging the level of awesome people I have in my life, and it's very easy to, when you're talking to yourself or whatever we think we're talking about, whatever that is, right? Thoughting,
Mm-hmm.
to say, well, I'm alone. I might not be lonely, but I'm alone. But the second a graduate opens their dang mouth, they're not alone.
Yeah.
We're just like, especially as a course supervisor, we're just immediately connected to the other human in a, like, I can't even stop it. I don't know if anybody else experiences that. I cannot stop connecting with people the second I open my mouth. And so telling on myself, being straight about what was going on and how I had demoralized myself. That's kind of a story, but literally continuing to educate this is what happened. Continuing to educate myself and ongoingly accepting the smallest amount of pay tolerable. It's just saying it out loud is exactly what had it show up, that it was all backwards. I had enrolled I don't even know if it's enrollment, right? But my excuse for doing what I did, going back to work and working around an injury, I was like, and Tim, you and I had this conversation. Am I convincing myself,
Mm-hmm.
or am I really lit up and empowered? And I was pretty sure I was empowered. So now I know that that's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not a thing. It's not a thing. I was completely convincing myself, and it's the whole doing, the whole expression for me of doing is it shows up in convincing mode. So it was uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
It was so uncomfortable, and but being a course supervisor is the only, I say, this is the meaning I'm putting on it, I guess, but flipping the things around and putting them in the order of our methodology at Landmark, I'll say it that way,
Mm-hmm.
has caused new openings for action that were not available before. I now have a job where I don't feel like I'm working.
Yeah, so what you just said. Yeah, this is the way the form works. This is transformation. This is, yeah, really, this is what Pam really got present to. As soon as she got real about it and looked at
Where I'd been
her
being inauthentic.
inauthentic, yeah, about her life. So then this kind of really sums it up. Who we are is our word. Now, this is also difficult for people sometimes to get. It's challenging for people to get that they're not, you know, a 32-year-old Cuban American born in Cuba who came here, who has done what they've done, and that their purpose, like, they don't really, it's very challenging for them until they actually get that who they are out here is what they speak and who they be, and in other people's language and listening, and what other people have you as how you occur is who you are. And as soon as you get that, there's freedom, there's power to be, and to be in action, free to be and free to act. So I'm going to take the slides down now. This is not a mini form, but this is really for all of us, that at any moment, like Tom said, we're machines, and at any moment we give meaning to everything. You know, I look at something on the news and I see something and I immediately give meaning about those kind of people.
Mm.
And then in a moment, I'll make up something about me. How can I be, as a course supervisor and a person in this work, how could I be like that? I make meaning, I give meaning to that. So there's nothing wrong. And none of it means anything. And that's a real freedom to really get that you and your own creation of language get to be who you say you are and create whatever meaning you want to create. Monica's writing a lot. I'm making that mean she's taking a lot of notes. So who would like to share, what are you getting out of this conversation for yourself? And, you know, I know some of you haven't actually supervised yet courses where you've had these interactions with people. So do you have any questions about, or do you want to do any, we have like 5 minutes. I think we need to have more conversation about this, Pedro. Maybe in the next one, actually do some mocks around what people will bring up about this conversation. Desiree, do you want to say something? You're just unmuted. I just didn't know if you wanted to. Okay. Dave, what's going on over there?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm listening to it all. I mean, I've been I'm a meaning making machine.
Yes.
For sure. Yeah, I'm looking for myself.
Good.
On this one. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you were here tonight. Thank you for working it out.
Thank you. Me too.
Yeah, Dave, I mean, here's where you can start looking from. You know, what results have you produced for yourself lately where you've been putting integrity back in your life?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's a lot of results with that. I mean, a lot of. a lot more work has been coming up,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so I've been putting integrity with a few different things, you know, keeping my word, you know, if I have a 5:30 appointment, I'm there. If I can, I communicate. So stuff like that. So, you know, my work has been like, you know, gone really through the roof. I can't keep up actually, which is amazing, you know, given what's going on externally. So yeah, and then I can relate to all you guys, you know, about a lot of stuff you said and what Pam said about, you know, and I started looking, you know, am I really like, I do love what I do, but am I like creating and I don't know, you know, it's just a lot here.
Yeah.
It's really a lot, you know, and I really think I'm in survival most of the time, especially these days, you know, and like I'm gonna have to survive the future, you know, because I'm convinced my rackets are right, and so there's a lot to say for me in this conversation. That it's, you know, that's why I'm just really absorbing it. But yeah, Pedro, the integrity, like even my apartment, there's a space that opens up for me, and the most direct results that I can see are through work, through the abundance of work happening.
And having that abundance of work causes what for you? Not like work, but like what happens with your way of being about things now? What's there for you? A sense of what?
Well, I mean, you know, Tim, you and I kind of spoke to this. I mean, I was always a guy similar to Pam. Like, I'm like, you know, the cheap rock bottom guy, do the good work, give the cheap prices, you know, get the job. Because if I don't get it, I'll lose it. You know, so there was like fear
Right. Yeah.
around that, and so now it's just, I don't know. There's just a sense of like, look, this is what I do. This is who I am. This is what I offer. This is what I can deliver. And here is my price. And here's, you know, here it is.
Yeah.
And people are taking it, you know?
Yeah.
Like there's just I got nothing about it. I'm like, you know, and I think that's also, I don't know, you know, I've been in times where like there was no work and I felt like I had to like, you know, kind of like cheap out. So when there's an abundance, I'm like, well, you know, I could get a little cocky with it. I'm like, well,
Bold
here.
though. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, a bit more bolder and just, you know, there's less, like a client today, gave me a job lead on somebody else and she's like, you know, give her a good price. You know, she's a friend of mine. You know, I'm like, look, I'm going to give her the same as everybody else and I'm going to do the exact same job. I'm going to deliver on it. It's going to turn out beautiful and my price is going to be reasonable. So that's it.
Yeah.
She was like, all right. So yeah.
Yeah. That's great, Dave. There's I can hear and even see there's a sense of freedom and joy and there's ease over there. Like a sense of ease.
Yeah, a bit more power.
Yeah.
A bit more power.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
So yeah. Thank you.
All right, great. Thanks, Dave. Okay, guys, it's 9:00.
What?
I know, right? It's like, woof, boom. So anything else anyone wants to share or has a question about or wants to say before we complete?
Something I want to share. Okay, so I started this week at my version of what I work is a bougie boutique real estate agency, and I have already helped customers get a rental, and they're from Dubai. They're considered foreign national, right? I have helped foreign nationals find a place to live.
Good for you. Wow.
Yeah.
Already producing results.
Wowzer.
I know, and they're so great.
You.
They're so great. I love them. Of course I do, but I'm like.
And there was no physical pain involved for you, right?
No,
I mean, really, right?
not at all. No,
Yeah.
really, like literally, like I'm
Yeah.
texting, guiding them through the application process. And I kept like rearranging myself in my chair, this chair, by the way, at home. And I'm like, I'm working right now.
That's great. Yeah.
Tim,
Yeah.
Tim, I just want to share, look,
Mhm.
you know, like Dave's saying, and I know we're over time, but I just want to share quickly. I've been putting integrity back in my planning
Hmm.
by, you know, I took on doing mission control, and my experience since Monday until today has been like, I put something in my calendar now, and that person shows up in my email without me doing anything.
Mhm.
And it's nothing more than managing things with integrity, and then it just shows up. And I don't even know how it's happening. It's just who I'm being, that look, if I'm going to talk to this person now, I have it on my schedule today, and sometimes they just show up automatically. And you know, what I'm saying is like, look, it's the foundation of integrity in which I'm doing the work that's causing this. And look, this is the goal of our work.
Yep.
And this is the goal of being a course supervisor, that you get to put this in your life day by day by day and just cause miracles for yourself. Yeah.
So I just put in the chat what he's talking about is a program called Mission Control, and every staff member at Landmark is required to complete that when they begin on staff. And I've completed it. Pedro and Pam are in the process of. And Tom, are you in it also? No. Okay. So I know Pedro and Pam.
Colin
Yes.
was the other participant.
Colin, thank you. Yeah, Colin are now currently in it. I've completed it. Dennis Hassel's wife, Cookie Boudreau, actually teaches the course. There's also what I would call a go at your own pace course online at missioncontrol.com, and you can do it at your own pace. I highly recommend doing it. You will get yourself squared away, your life. So that's how we're going to end tonight. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to stop the recording.